What I want to be able to do is answer the question that I've heard as I've traveled around the conference over the last year. What is the Ministry Fund Drive? And if you'll pay attention to my brief words and to the video clips and other things I have to share with you before lunch, I hope that you'll have a better sense of what it is that we're doing. First of all, thank you very much from the bishop, from the Ministry Fund Drive Committee, from myself, to all of you churches and individuals who have already given financially or made a pledge to this campaign. Some of you know that a few years ago, our bishop recognized and heard the voices of many congregations saying that we're struggling out here. We need some help in order to project our congregational life out into the future. It raises the question this morning, how is it in your church? How is your church doing with your facility, with your finances, with your mission and ministry work? How are you doing? I want you to know that the We See a New Church Ministry Fund Drive is intended to help you become and remain and sustain a kind of vitality well into the future. If you're new here, that's exactly what this campaign was about. Let me show you a graphic here on the screen real quick. This graphic indicates that of the funds that come in to the Ministry Fund Drive, they are divided 65% to the Toole Center, the Bishop Marjorie and Jack Toole Center for Excellence in Leadership, and 25% to the development of new faith communities, and 10% to the denominational campaign, Imagine No Malaria. The next slide will show you the current status that we have. Our original goal was to raise $3.5 million, and by the way, that goal was established right on the heels of the Great Recession. A very ambitious goal at a time when it was very difficult to imagine raising $350,000, let alone $3.5 million. However, we've had pretty good success. I was reminded recently that those people in our churches today who are the most generous givers are the ones who lived through the Great Depression. And so I fully expect that those of us who have survived the Great Recession of recent years will become and can become generous for the years to come. We are currently at almost 1.7 million, and my goal, my personal goal, is to see us reach $2 million by the end of the year. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I have many, many churches I'd like to thank individually, but I'm going to bypass those congregations. Moscow UMC, Wesley UMC in Yakima, Salmon Creek, Green Bluff in Spokane, Olympia First had flying pigs this spring. They became creative in order to contribute to this campaign, have done a great job. We have said yes, we want to build and start new faith communities, not new buildings. We've said yes, we want to support the Toole Center so our lay people and our clergy can learn adaptive leadership skills for the new day of the 21st century. And yes, we do care about children who are dying from malaria. We want to contribute to that denominational campaign. I'm going to show you a few images, a few videos to demonstrate how some of the funds that have already come in for the Ministry Fund campaign are already making a difference in the congregations represented here this morning. Several years ago, the Board of Congregational Development of our conference set an ambitious goal of beginning 48 new faith communities by the year 2024, and they are well on their way. We are well on our way. And there are a couple of those new faith communities that you might be familiar with, having seen something about them. And I've selected them to show you this morning because I want to show you the progress and how these faith communities are developing. One of those is Valley and Mountain Fellowship, which gathers each week in South Seattle, and they experience the worship of God together in some new and creative ways. I want you to listen to what Reverend John Helmier says about their experience. Just watch this video. Take a look here for a moment.
So when people come to Valley and Mountain, we're telling them this is not a place where you're just going to get your needs met. We're not trying to fit into some market niche in the broader culture. We're trying to help people figure out what their gifts are and use them as a community for the kingdom of God. We've got about 100 people who are active members or co-creators, participants in the community, coming from all different walks of life, a lot of whom would not be in church at all without the Spirit leading them to this place. We're a place that really emphasizes inclusion and belonging, but challenging people at the same time. So a big part of our identity is to have an identity, to not just sort of say, hey, we're everything to everybody, but we are unapologetic about a lot of who we are. We have a couple key terms, a few core values that are at the heart of who we are. One is deep listening. Deep listening is really about mystical Christianity. It's about realizing that God is beyond what any of us can fully grasp. And so we have to cultivate spiritual practices that can help us put ourselves into God's presence and be transformed. Another is what we call creative liberation. This is what a lot of people would call social justice. But we are unapologetic about saying we are on the side of the poor, of the oppressed, the marginalized. We see Jesus' first sermon in Luke as his mission statement in a lot of ways. And as the body of Christ, we too are called to bring good news to the poor, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. So we do that, and it's not for everybody. Some people, come and they don't want to be part of that. Well, there's 300 other churches in South Seattle, so we're not too worried about it. And although not everybody agrees with it when they show up, I think they respect that, and they want to come and they want to be challenged. So we have three movements to our liturgy, to our worship service. The first we call the gathering and the opening. So it's congregational singing, there's call and response prayer, and then we have a short reflection. But after reflection, we have Quaker meeting time. So if you've ever been to a Quaker service, people just sit in silence for a while and they speak when the Spirit moves them. We actually incorporate that for about 15 minutes into our service after the reflection or the sermon. It's still a Methodist church, so a lot of people want to talk the whole time, but we encourage them to also allow there to be space for silence. Honestly, this is the best part of our entire service. It's the time when people share their own very personal stories, they share their own metaphors, their own experiences that relate to that. Then there's the offering too, shouldn't forget that. And that's very participatory as well. The second movement we call encounter groups, and we break up into groups for about 25, 30 minutes throughout the space, where people can practice spiritual disciplines together. So we might have a prayer circle where people are sharing what's going on in their lives and praying for each other. In another room, there might be a Lectio Divina, where they read through the scripture 3 times and hear what the Spirit is saying to them. Another room might be a group learning about a social justice issue, the Black Lives Matter campaign, and what's going on with police-community relations, particularly with African-American community, and how they can be part of the solution. So we might have those 3 different groups going on all at once. We probably, in a given year, will have 30 or 40 different spiritual practices that people can learn and experience. They have to participate in them. They have to choose your own adventure liturgy, and that requires people to participate. It also gives them the tools so that they can develop their own passionate spirituality and faith, not just on Sunday, but throughout the week. The third movement of our liturgy is the love feast. It's communion. It is sitting around tables together, experiencing God in the breaking of bread and in fellowship. Now we're at that phase at 5 years where I think we can really transition into deep collective leadership. It's funny, at Valley Mountain, the veterans, the pillars of the church are people who've been there for 4 years, which is not a very long time in the lifespan of a church. But it's long enough that people are really taking ownership of it. So we're moving into that place where we're becoming deeply rooted in our community. We're also, we started this social change incubator, this community center for nonprofits, where we now have 27 different nonprofits who are sharing in this space. We're not just renting the church empty rooms to them. We built a space specifically to enable and network and create collaborative opportunities for all the different works of the Spirit going on in our neighborhood, whether they say they're secular or whether they say they're religious. It's this place where we come together. It's a huge feeder for the church as well. Most of the new people are coming in because they've come to the space for one of these other organizations. We build some relationships. They say, oh, there's a church that meets here? It must be kind of cool. It must be open-minded at least. And so that's how we get most of the new people in the door at this point. The model of church planting that we did was with the Board of Congregational Development overseeing an assessment process for me, identifying me as a church planter and sending me to this neighborhood with funding and prayer support and a coach that without which it absolutely would have been impossible to do the work that we've done. So the Board of Congregational Development and the Ministry Fund Drive that's working to gather resources, pool them together so that we can do these kind of works like Valley and Mountain, we just wouldn't exist without it.
I'm very excited that we are beginning New Faith Communities. I'm going to invite all these people over here to come up to the stage at this time. And Sally and Alex, you can come stand by me. As they're coming up, I'm going to tell you that you heard a little bit earlier that this year we're closing the doors of about 5 of our congregations. It's too late for them. I'm very sorry. There's some sadness at closing congregations. But the Ministry Fund Drive, the We See a New Church campaign, it will save the lives and futures of a number of our congregations. I want Sally and Alex here, and everybody else can come and stand out this way somewhere. Out here, John, be great. Yeah, thank you. The second of our New Faith Communities that I'm wanting to feature is one you know a little bit about, God's New Generation. And rather than show you a video or talk about it myself, I wanted Pastors Alex and Sally Perez to share just a couple of minutes about the ministry that's going on. This really is an exciting and a new faith community that took roots out of the former Pasco First United Methodist Church. So,
hello again. My name is Alex Perez. I think they make the pulpit for a little bit taller people here. But I want to thank everyone for their support, for being there for us. 5 years ago, we started with just a vision, and it's become something else throughout the years. It's been awesome just to see the growth, not only in numbers, but in people, to see the discipleship development that's happened within the church, the kids, the youth, our leadership. Right now, the history has been just working. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But it's been awesome. It's been great. We've seen God moving in such a mighty way, in a powerful way. We've seen lives changed. When we started, it was just a few of us, my wife and I, and 3 other people. And now we've expanded where we have about 200 people going through our church weekly. We just started our second service here in the west side. We're still continuing in the east side. And we continue to have a bigger vision. What do we see? We see a church that's going to bring out many leaders that are going to come out of our church. What do we see in the future? We see ourselves expanding to becoming a bigger church and maybe opening up another church somewhere else. So we're excited for what's to come. We spoke of this maybe about 2 years ago, and now it's happening. So we're really excited to see what God has in store for the future of G&G.
Yes, we are so blessed to see everything that God is doing, and every time that we get the opportunity and the chance to speak, I stay in awe because I think, God, you're doing this. You're the one that's making all of this happen, and it's just such a blessing to see every week lives being changed and transformed, and people just having that hope that only God could give. And I am just so thankful for everything that God has done and the people that He's surrounded us with. Every successful person is surrounded by advisors and believers, and I believe that that's what we've been surrounded by ever since we started. We've had amazing advisors. Our bishop has been great. The leadership, the directors have been amazing, and they have always helped us and encouraged us and always been there to support and help. Believers, you guys have been the believers, and you guys have walked with us, and we are so thankful for you that you have believed in this vision, you have believed in this dream, and now we see that God has established something that is rooted in this community. We dreamt of a church where multi-generational Hispanic, Latino people could gather and worship, and that is what has been established, and we are just so thankful for everything that you guys have done and for believing and just for being there with us. God bless you all.
Wow, I was getting excited there. Thank you, Sally. That's terrific. By the way, tomorrow morning's early morning worship service will be held at this congregation's place of worship. Look up the details in your materials and go to church early in the morning because it's nice and cool that time of day. So these others up here, let's go to the next slide, please. There are several other New Faith communities who have that have been begun. And the work of the Board of Congregational Development is so important. I want you to know the Ministry Fund Drive and your gifts that you've given and will give help support the work of the Board of Congregational Development. And these are great stories, every one of them. I wish we had time to hear people for their efforts of faith. All right, thank you. You're all excused to go back to work now. So either way you can get off is fine. That'd be great. I'm excited. So what does the Ministry Fund Drive do? We see a new church. In fact, we see 48 new churches, and these are some of them. We call them faith communities. These are not buildings. These are faith communities being developed in different parts of our conference. Wow. The second part of the Ministry Fund Drive, the 65% of every dollar that you give helps to support the Bishop Jack and Marjorie Toole Center for Leadership Excellence. I want to show you real quickly some of the things that this center is able to do. This center offers us hope. Your church may be struggling. Your church may be facing some financial difficulties. Your worship service may be down from what it was. Now is the time to be thinking about how you can make changes in your mission and ministry as a congregation. How can the Toole Center help you as a local church? I'm going to demonstrate for you some of the things that the Toole Center has offered to some of our churches over the past couple of years. You may have heard something about the Beta Vitality process. There were 12 congregations from our conference and 2 from the Alaska conference who agreed to be part of a beta process to develop a stronger, deeper sense of vitality in their congregations. They have had, some of them, more success than others, but they've all had some success in identifying and recognizing the call that God has placed on their life. 2 things are key to congregational renewal. Listen to these. A deep and serious commitment on the part of the laity of the church. You must be committed to make change in the way you do ministry. Folks, it's hard work. It's hard work to take yourself into the future. It's very easy to look at the new calendar for the new year and say, let's do what we did last year. And many of our churches have been doing the same thing year after year after year. It won't take you to the future. The Toole Center will teach us all adaptive leadership skills, lay people and clergy alike. And some of these beta churches have had some good success over the last couple of years. Listen to this next video from the Community United Methodist Church in Coeur d'Alene.
I think last time we touched base, we were just doing kind of our mapping, which was really asking the people of the congregation to look at what they felt were assets and some deficits for us to focus on, and that was the very beginning. And from there, it was interesting when we got that feedback back. Some of the things that we heard really resonated with us, some didn't so much.
I think any church considering doing it needs to recognize that early on it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and if you're not ready to do the work, don't jump in. but the rewards of jumping in are definitely worth it. and the key is work hard to put together your team, your beta leadership team.
We have an amazing team, and I am the least of all of them. And we've been able to take the nuggets, like especially the spirituality, and really birth that into something really touching and a growth opportunity for us, so much so that instead of saying, okay, spirituality, we're done with that, we then offered another one. And so bringing that out, and people are coming to expect that, and we're hoping that that is going to be part of the texture or the tapestry of our church as we grow on.
I was very much into this by myself, but not something that I was willing to share with people. And it only came out as a result of beta that I did have this ability. And I had done it years ago, and then I kind of reached a place where I just thought, I'm just going to sit back and not be as involved. And with beta, it brought it back out again. And actually what it has done for me is it has given me so much more energy. I am very affirmed and recognizing this is God's gift to me, and that I am so much better off by using it than by just keeping it for myself.
It forced us, I think, or at least it led us to look at things in ways that we might not have looked at them, to mix information, to see interrelationships between things, to do some introspection and some self-assessment, and then to act on what we learned.
Yeah, our coach, after we finally ended up with Nancy Tam Davis, she's just really a dream and is really positive with us. And I have to say, the world is not a positive place with the church. And even the upper church isn't necessarily a real positive, but she sees life and she offers life back to us, which makes us want to offer life back, and just it begins this really good snowball effect. We don't celebrate things in church enough, and so to be able to, have that feedback has really been helpful. If you want somebody to do something, really kind of positive feedback and critical feedback, but really encouragement is huge, and I think that would be really valuable.
The ministry fund drive helps fund the coaching that Heather was talking about. Coaching is very important. The first thing I said was commitment on the part of a congregation. We must do something to make a change to maintain vitality into the future. The second thing that's been very helpful is the coaching that's available through the Tool Center, funded by the Ministry Fund Drive, that helps these churches move further into the future with their planning. I want to show you a quick video clip from one of the coaches, Nancy Tam Davis. Take a listen to what a coach does.
So coaching is probably mostly asking questions of people. But then there's times when I'll slip in what I call a mini training of, well, here's what normally happens in a group of people. There's the storming and the norming and the forming, and we'll watch for that in your team. Or this is how conflict usually arises. Here are some tools you can work with in dealing with conflict that's happening right now in your congregation. So it's some training, some facilitating, a lot of asking questions. I liken coaching to the sport of curling. A little odd side story here, but the team is the one that throws the stone, that moves the stone down the ice, and the coach is the one out front with that broom sweeping just as fast as I can to get the stone to move farther, warm the ice, help the team make a little more impact on what they're doing. And so I'm a sweeper. The assessment program, I don't think I had realized how important that was. Now, often a church or a congregation will go into a problem solving with some data. They'll look at their building, the age of the building, the maintenance needs on the building. But the assessment program used in the data has, I believe, 5 or 6 different significant areas. They're looking at the demographics of where their church is located. They look at the building, they look at the talents and gifts and expectations of the congregation. And it's the opportunity to bring together assessment from many different standpoints and then look at the whole picture. And what I've seen congregations do is they come out of that saying, oh, we get it. We get it now. This is where we need to be going. Well, the funding for coaching comes from the Tool Center. And the Tool Center is this marvelous center of learning and growth and development, not just for pastors, but for lay members of the congregation as well. And personally, I'm so excited about seeing what the Tool Center is doing as a center for learning, as a center, as a way of sharing what we learn with one another. And not only what happens, let's say in a class or a workshop, but the ability to send a coach into that congregation to work with them over a period of time. And I think that makes such a difference.
All right, thanks. Commitment on the part of the congregation, and the coaching is very important. The coaching is supported through the Tool Center, funded by the Ministry Fund Drive. What does the Ministry Fund Drive do? You're seeing images of a variety of kinds of what your support will help provide. Your church can benefit from the Tool Center as well. There are about 24 congregations represented in this room being served by certified lay ministers. Certified lay ministers are you, who are lay people who've been active in a church and are asked, and you respond to the call to go be the lay pastor of a congregation. Training is available to the certified lay minister. That training is made available through the Tool Center and through the Ministry Fund Drive. That's what the Ministry Fund Drive helps do. 24 congregations that are not closing their doors thanks to the certified lay minister. Are any of the certified lay ministers here? Would you stand up? And there's, I think, a picture of them. Well, I'll show you the picture in a minute. Yeah. You folks are doing great ministry. I want to highlight one lay minister, Catherine Garnett, who's at Hoquiam. Take a listen to what Catherine has to say. Thank you, Catherine. No wonder she's popular. She's short.
As a certified lay minister assigned to the Hoquiam United Methodist Church, it's been an interesting experience. The church had had full-time clergy for many years, which was draining their budget. It's a small, rural, blue-collar community, and they cannot keep the church going with the expenses that they had before. So being able to bring someone in that was trained to take over for clergy and pay a much smaller salary, the church is able to now be viable. After a brief period of a little angst about a layperson coming in, they've realized that there is a lot of synergy having both the person sort of in charge and the lay members of the church working on the same level. And it's become not only financially viable for the church, but it has also provided, I believe, a really strong leadership lay relationship that is helping to build the church to feel comfortable with where they are, and helping the church to grow in a small way. My duties are the administration of the church, of the office. Yeah, my duties, of course, are to preach on Sunday mornings and to make sure the pulpit is filled, to be part of all the committees of the church. Normally, a certified lay minister does not have privileges to do communion and baptism, but on an individual basis, the bishop can give these sacramental authority, which he has given to me. So we're able to offer communion twice a month, and baptisms whenever they're requested. And I think the congregation feels very comfortable with that. I think that Hoquiam does have a good future. They were to the point where they were concerned about the future because financially they were becoming in greater and greater difficulty. But the church is now on a stronger footing. We've added some members. We have children in the congregation, so we're looking forward to the children growing up in the church and being a vital part of it. So I think they have a much brighter future. The Tool Center has provided the basis for a lot of the training for the CLM program. And the Tool Center is supported by the Ministry Fund Drive. It is an important element in allowing lay people to have the kind of training that brings them into the churches so that they can help the churches through some financial difficulties and keep the church viable both from the standpoint of the financial area, but also it keeps them vital in the community and keeps the people involved and the vitality that they have as a congregation.
Wow, I really am appreciative of our certified lay ministers. I think I have an image up here, don't I? That shows you a number of our certified lay members. But For those of you who are here, thank you very much for your ministry. Those are some of the things that happen through the Tool Center. There are other events that we have sponsored through the Tool Center that a number of you have been involved in. Events like the Transforming Ministry Conferences over the last few years, very creative, teaching those who are participating very innovative thinking. How do we become a new church, a new direction, and maintain the essence of our Christian gospel, our Christian message here in the Pacific Northwest? Recently in Seattle, the Church for All People was held. Abigail Vizquez Perez, I think I've got it right. Abigail is here to share a little bit about her experience at the event called Church for All People.
I'm Abigail Vizquez Perez, and I went to the Church for All People on a day off. The leaders from the Church for All People shared with us the stories of their struggles. It was a resting place for me to hear their testimonies. When I heard that they are reclaiming abandoned properties, that in fact they have found a way to use boarded up houses for their ministry, I realized they see their neighborhood through the eyes of Christ. I was inspired to see my own neighborhood with new eyes, to see foreclosed properties and crumbling facades in South Tacoma as a place to start. And in fact, to see those things as an asset. I left those workshops refreshed and inspired by the gospel in their stories. When you support the Tool Center, the classrooms without walls that it provides, you participate in the exchange of holy wisdom like this. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. I'm very grateful to the Tool Center staff and volunteers and some staff from the conference office for the planning. The beta churches that you heard about a little bit earlier, they're completing their 2-year cycle. We're partnering now with the Oregon Idaho Conference and the Alaska Conference to take the best of the learnings of training for laity and clergy through the Tool Center. And I want you to watch in the next few months at the conference website something called vital.church.com. That will be the hybrid of the best of all these conferences put together, and you'll be able to see if there's something there that might help your church. We also have held events like creating congregational cultures of generosity. There's not a congregation represented here that wouldn't benefit by attending that event. These things are funded through the Tool Center, funded by the Ministry Fund Drive. The gifts that you've given are helping make these things happen now and in the months and years to come. I want to show you one other slide. Let me see here. Let me see the next slide. Yes, try and go to the next one because I'm going to try to hurry up here. These people are looking hungry. Oh, yes. The bishop has challenged some of our pastors, and we want to recognize them and honor them and hope that they'll respond to the challenge. He's responded these pastors to challenge these pastors to respond in making significant contributions to the ministry fund drive, especially over these remaining 6 months of 2015. I'll tell you more about that. But these people whose names are here have been invited to make a significant gift of some kind to the ministry fund drive, especially in these coming months. We want to honor them. And listen to me, those of you who've given a gift or your congregation has made a pledge, thank you very much. These videos and these people who've been up front are evidence that there's fruit on the trees here in ministry in our conference thanks to your gifts. Now, we're not done yet. We are not finished. We have yet another 6 months of me, Uncle John, coming to see you and ask you, even if you've given already as a church, or even if as a pastor you've given something already, we want to ask you to give again. A creative idea has come out of the cabinet and been handed to me to share with you. In the next 6 months, I'm going to be looking for 1,000 United Methodists. We've got a good start right here today. I'm looking for 1,000 United Methodists who will give $100 apiece for the home stretch campaign. Let's see this next slide. The home stretch is that last appeal, that last few months that we're going to be asking for you to make pledges and gifts to this campaign. And a number of you have not yet given anything yet. I want to really urge you to think about participating in this home stretch campaign. And if you can give $100, that would be great. If you can give $500, that would be great. If you and 3 of your friends can give $100, that would be great. Every gift is welcome and would be deeply appreciated. You can make a gift or you can make a pledge, $100 a year for the next 3 years. And let's see if we can't get to that celebration goal of $2 million by the end of December. You have in your possession, I believe, some material that was prepared. One of them is this card here. Features the home stretch. If you don't have it with you at your desk now, you'll find it in the materials you picked up when you registered. This is intended to be a bulletin insert. You can make copies of this at your church and pick a special Sunday to appeal, or you can pick up a few of them at the display tables over here for Imagine No Malaria and the Ministry Fund Drive. But this is a bulletin insert with a little information and a pledge card. We're in search of 1,000 $100 bills. Can I get a close-up of this? There's the first one. I am going to give the first $100 bill to this home stretch part of the campaign. And I challenge you to, where's my conference treasurer? I've got to get this out of my hands because there's a golf course not too far away.
Grace for lunch, just short.
And there's mine.
All right. We've doubled the effort. Listen, folks, 1,000 Methodists to give $100, we can do that. We could do most of that right here this morning. And there's an example of it. I'm also looking for 100 Methodists who will give $1,000 each. There are some of you who could do that. Take that pledge card, that gift card, fill it out, and take care of it. You can leave it at the information table over here in this area, and or take it home and see if there aren't some people in your congregation you can get to join in. You've seen some of the fruit on the trees here. I'm very excited about what we've been doing. Now, lastly on this campaign is the Imagine No Malaria part of this campaign. That's a denominational campaign that we're contributing part of our funds from this campaign to that Imagine No Malaria. Julia Frisbee will tell you more about that campaign later in this conference. She has a display table over here that's just awesome. Let me tell you this. Of my 43 years of ministry in the United Methodist Church, the Imagine No Malaria campaign is the greatest, most influential thing we've done in mission and ministry in my 43 years. And if your neighbors don't know that your church is eliminating malaria from the face of the earth, you need to tell them. They want to be a part of a church that's making that kind of a difference in the world. And you need to find out more about that. Imagine No Malaria. Imagine No Malaria. Thank you, Bishop, for leading us in this cause. And these people are looking hungry.
So, Amen. Thank you, John,
everybody.
so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Let's give John a hand.